A game that yields a really satisfying gameplay experience is generally all I need to stick around and keep playing. With that said, I'm a sucker for a good story. When you give me a game with a really deep and well thought out storyline, combined with even just passable gameplay, I'm usually still on board. But I can't say the same for a game with a phenomenal story that just doesn't back it up with fun gameplay. I recently picked up EA's Lost in Random, and it definitely fits the bill exactly for one of these blanket generalizations that I've made. But did it keep me interested, or was it more of a lost cause? Welcome back to No Time Gamer, the channel with reviews, tutorials, and more for the busy gaming life. I didn't quite know what to expect when I bought this game. All I know is that the trailers looked super Tim Burton-y in their art style, and the story seemed pretty interesting, so I was drawn in. And I definitely wasn't let down when I started it up for the first time. The creative direction of the game is flawless. It's pretty apparent only just a few minutes into the game that the story on offer is very deep, and that you'll experience no shortage of eye candy as you progress through the game. Here's the abridged setup of the plot. The main character, Even, and her sister, Odd, live in the kingdom of Random, a place where everyone's fate is decided by one roll of a die at age 12. In a ceremony held in their hometown of Onecroft, Odd's fate is decided when she rolls a 6, meaning that she will be taken away to live with the queen in Sixtopia, leaving her family behind. Even doesn't accept the outcome of the dice roll and sets out on a journey to recover her sister and bring her back home. Dice are a pretty central part of the game. Early on in her adventure, Even will gain a companion named Dicey, who becomes an integral part of how she'll fight battles and gain entry to new areas. This is one of the things that makes the game pretty interesting. During battle, you'll shoot gems to knock them off your enemies. As you collect these gems, you'll fill up your hand with cards that will give you an ability in categories like attack, defense, hazard, or cheat. When your hand is full, you'll give Dicey a roll and then choose the cards that you want to play for the next piece of your battle. These cards give you things like a sword or hammer or bow and arrow that deals heavier damage to your foes, or a health refill, or a bomb that you can shoot to blow up your enemies, just to name a few. You'll absolutely need to utilize the attack cards unless you intend to battle the same enemies forever, because the weapon that Even wields by default is pretty much only good for shooting gems, not dealing damage. Some of the cards you'll get are pretty cool, but they started to feel pretty stale after just a few battles. As a matter of fact, the whole combat mechanism started to annoy me after a few hours. There's not a lot of variation in the enemies, and simple battles against just a couple enemies felt like they took several minutes each, because you had to keep filling your hand with cards and then go through the whole process of rolling the dice and picking your cards in the dice mention. It's a great concept, but it just felt clunky and slow in practice. Outside of battle, you'll basically be chasing a ghost that will lead you through the various towns in Random. You'll meet tons of very unique characters along the way, and all of them have something to say to you. In fact, usually they have too much to say. All of the dialogue sequences usually add something to the story, but most of them are just too long. After I got out of Onecroft and into Two Town, I found myself skipping through most of these sequences because I just didn't feel like spending the time listening to all of the dialogue. And as I look back on it, it's a shame because the dialogue was all witty and engaging like a really good Disney movie. The voice acting is all spot on and it really envelops you into the game's rich story. But at times, I feel like I'd rather experience this as a movie rather than a game. While it's all good material, there's almost too much story and dialogue for me here. There's even one puzzle that you'll solve that is eventually dependent upon a dialogue sequence to finish. And if you make the wrong choice during the final dialogue sequence, you'll have to start the whole sequence again. It might be a minor annoyance, but it's things like this that make me feel like I'm just throwing my time to the wind with nothing to show for it. Lost in Random could have been one of my favorite games that I've played for a while. It has such an edge over a lot of releases of late, just by being unique in its creative direction and by providing an interesting battle mechanic during combat sequences. But unfortunately, I think the execution of the gameplay itself just isn't there. And remember in the beginning when I said a phenomenal story without fun gameplay isn't enough for me? That's the sad reality of this game. If you're okay with a great story and flat gameplay, then maybe give this game a chance. And with that said, I do think the game would be great for kids to play, or even to play in front of kids, because it would definitely keep them entertained. But if you're flying solo, I think there are definitely better outlets out there for an engaging story and fun gameplay. While I'll give it credit where credit is due, I'm really disappointed to say that for busy gamers, Lost in Random is time not well spent.